Welcome to the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm your host of the podcast. I'm also the founder of ScaleHR and SocialHRCamp. This podcast lives on our website at GoScaleHR.com. By the way, it's a brand new website coming. Yeah, I know I've been saying that for a while, but it is coming. It's coming. Trust me. It's coming soon. And also SocialHRCamp. First of the next 8 camps are coming up starting in a couple of weeks. So we've got 8 events happening over my next 4 months, which is fantastic. So this is the Unmuted Podcast. So we talk about all things HR tech, hiring, firing, world of work, leadership, AI, everything like that. All of our guests are practitioners and leaders in, mostly in North America. And this is a really good topic today. It's called Beyond Perks, Redefining Employee Engagement for today's workforce. And so obviously, it's a really hot topic, one that we've been talking about for probably decades here. And, before I bring in our guest, who is a senior HR leader in the tech industry based in Vancouver, I am going to make just a couple of key points here first. So the first point, that I want to make, for our viewers is that for decades, we've been talking about employee engagement as if it were a static goal. So measured in things like, turnover, retention, bonuses, perks, ping pong tables in the office, dumbest idea ever, and free snacks, right? So things like that. But, today's workforce is different. Expectations have been shifting for some time, but that shift is starting to accelerate as companies face new pressures. And of course, all of us know what those are. And then employee engagement is no longer about surface level perks. It's about creating something deeper, personal meaning, flexibility, and growth opportunities for staff. Second point, what I want to make is that companies that fail to adapt to these changes will risk losing their top talent. We've been saying that for years now. But engagement today is less about what's nice to have and more about what's necessary to keep talent inspired, connected, ultimately committed. So that was framing the topic. So our guest is Agata Zasada is at ZayZoon, which is based in the best city in the world, Vancouver, Canada. So Agata, welcome to the Unmuted Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. It's lovely to be here.
So you are sitting in your beautiful home in downtown Vancouver, which happens to be my favorite downtown of all time because I'm actually from Vancouver originally, but yes, I'm biased. So your view, do you have a view of the water, the mountains?
I do, but I have my curtains all closed, so I can't even show you.
Yeah. So you face, which way? North?
I am facing northwest.
Oh, that's the best view.
I love the test of the geography. I was
Well,
like,
remember when I used to live in Steveston, which is Richmond, and then when we go into Vancouver, so as long as you can see the mountains, then you know that you're going north, right? So,
exactly. I have a mountain view as well.
yeah, beautiful. Okay, so I just want to welcome you to the podcast, and so we've got a couple of questions here for you, but can you give our viewers a sense of what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So I am the chief people officer at a company called ZayZoon. ZayZoon as a company is founded in Calgary, so we do have a head office, but we are a fully remote workforce in both Canada and the US. I am based out of Vancouver, which is beautiful and I love it. And I lead the people function. I have the fortunate pleasure of being part of the senior leadership team and the executive team. And yeah, I have a team that reports into me, and we do all things HR and IT.
Fantastic. And so the company's been growing recently too. I mean, it's so how many employees are in the company now?
Yeah, we are over 200 employees. To give you a point of view, I think we were 75 people 2 years ago. So the growth has been pretty astronomical and really quick, and both from an employee perspective as well as a customer and client perspective and revenue. So they're all working in tandem on the growth. So it's all very positive.
I mean, those are the key things that obviously that actually work in tandem. They should be working in tandem. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, good thing. Okay, so I just want to jump into our topic here. So we're talking about employee engagement. You can just talk a bit about what is important to you and the things that you've been thinking about or actually hearing about in your role as HR.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think there's a couple big macro changes that are really hard to separate. So one is obviously the economic situation and the political situation, and I'm not here to speak of it. It just exists. And then the second is the change of the workforce. There is way more Gen Zs in the workforce than there were before. And then also just the world of gigs, right? Gig work has become really big. Much of what we encounter in our day to day actually has a component of gig work. And so if you're thinking, what is gig work? Think of your Uber, your DoorDash, the Amazon, the deliveries, things that are just like pick it up and go. And there's so many services and so forth that have that component. And so there's a lot of stuff that's evolving really quickly at the exact same time. And so when you think about, you're talking about engagement as the opener, it's like, how does that even relate in this world today that we operate in? And how do businesses that have, been around for a long time, or maybe have been traditional employers, how do they evolve and still have high engagement with their employees to retain, to have great customer experiences and all those things in this kind of evolutionary state of the world? And so I know it's hard. I hear from HR practitioners all the time, can't spend money, dial things back, the teams are getting smaller. Yeah. So there's a lot of like pressure, and we want to make the workplace such a wonderful place too, right? And so it's like do more with less is kind of the ongoing thing. And like turnover rates are higher than they've ever been. And there's so many other, call it headwinds for HR professionals or business owners today. So yeah, that's what really is important to me to talk about, and helping others have ways of thinking through or structures to think through of what I believe is kind of the evolution.
So that's a good, opener. I think you talked about something which finances, costs, right? And so, I mean, my previous life, like I was an HR leader, and I always looked at what are we spending money on, and sort of are we getting value for it? And I think just because something costs something doesn't mean that it's good. Research shows that the things that actually make a difference don't really cost anything. They just cost time and effort, right? But let's talk about the actual workforce. So as you mentioned, there was the Gen Z, which is a huge population, and then we have obviously Gen Ys, and then Gen Xers, or pardon me, Gen X,
All of them.
which is more us. Well, I mean, maybe you are Gen Y, but anyway. But I think the workforce has changed, and so what do you believe are the core needs of the workforce today? I'm talking about the up and coming workforce that's sort of taking over.
Yeah, I think it's actually a very valid point. Well, I think this is driven or could be driven by Gen Z coming into the workforce. I actually think all the different generations are evolving as well into this way of want. And I think there's this external and maybe I'll say this in the way because most people don't want to say it, but I do think there's this belief that workers today are lazy, or people don't want to work. And it's like, it's actually not that simple. I think really what it is that what businesses have traditionally offered versus what has evolved as the needs of our workforce have evolved. And so there is this misalignment. And so what are those needs, right? Let's just jump into those. These are not in any order of like importance, but just there's 5: control, recognition, connection, opportunity, and confidence. And you think about control, in some businesses that may translate to autonomy, and sometimes it can't, right? And so in some levels of control, it could also be, I referenced the gig work. It could be gig work. Like I can work for myself and choose the hours I work and get paid the same day. Those things still are available in traditional employers that maybe are 9 to 5 or scheduled, but giving employees or the workforce a form of control over their day, I think is a big deal. And I think I'll talk about it later, but I could get into that, just one topic in itself. Recognition is such a simple and free thing. And in many businesses, you can automate recognition. So I'm just going to lean to the gig work one just because it's simple. You think about all the apps you order your DoorDash at the end of how was your driver? How was the food? Like there is a bunch of people that are doing gig work behind that are getting instantaneous recognitions and ratings and thank yous and interaction. The same can be true in a traditional workplace. Recognition doesn't cost money. Saying thank you and acknowledging someone's impact and performance is still a very valuable thing. And people, in fact, I think the workforce is thriving more for that than they have in the past. I think no news is good news is like not a thing that the workforce now believes in. The next is connection. Connection is an interesting one, I think, because it shows up very differently for different people. But if you think, let's use the gig one, and again, ZayZoon's not a gig place, but like, let's talk about connection in general. Is like in the gig workforce, you're literally interacting with strangers and making connections with people, or you're working as a team and making friendships through the workplace. We spend so much of our time in this place, and that in a distributed workplace or in a remote place, actually putting an effort to find natural places for people to connect is actually really important. And it's one of the first places I think budgets get cut is like, okay, no more lunches out, no more company events. Let's not do that. Connection doesn't always have to be about money. Connection is also just like the space and time and commitment to do that. And I'll talk through that. But the workforce today really does value connection and their colleagues and the relationships they build. It is actually that bond that keeps people coming back. And then opportunity. Opportunity can look like a lot of different things for different people. And so I want to open this up as like, take opportunity and just make the bubble bigger in your head. Is like, it could be opportunity to earn more wages, or opportunity for flexibility to earn more wages, or opportunity for flexibility to live a different type of lifestyle. It might be opportunity for promotions, growth, career advancement, lateral changes. So like, opportunity means very different things to different people. And that is true within the same generation, but also multi-generationally. Opportunity is something that is very unique, and not all businesses can do all of them, but knowing what opportunities you do have the flexibility to offer will actually likely attract people that are lined up for that. So, and also being clear what you can offer is totally of value, because it helps you know that you're hiring or keeping the people that are a right fit. And the last thing people really are driven, and the workforce is confidence. And confidence is like, it's a little bit hard to explain. It's not confidence in the business, although that is always great. It's confidence that they're doing something that they love. It's confidence that they have the ability to live a fulsome life, make ends meet, that they are advancing as a person in all aspects. This is where I think in traditional perks or benefits is like considered well-being. Sure, it could be that. And if you're a larger business, you may have a well-being strategy that may be completely completely solving for this. But most organizations, I think, struggle to support employees where they're like, that feels like a personal problem. This is a business. That's really blended over the years. And we've done a bunch of things in the benefits realm to separate the business from those problems by putting a provider in between us. But confidence is around giving them, the worker or the employee, the confidence that they can solve their own problems, that they can have the resources and support and information to evolve and move forward. That doesn't always cost money. That costs time and effort. So like, those are the things. So I'll just summarize the things that I think the workforce and the evolving workforce of today is looking for is control, recognition, connection, opportunity, and confidence.
I think that, very well said, and I couldn't have said it better. My next question is, what are ways that employers or HR can start to transition to the workforce of today?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that come to mind for me in terms of like big picture, two ways of doing this, right? You can go and take tactics and just implement them, and then they will or will not work. And that is sometimes the right strategy for depending on your size of your organization. And the other is like a from to. And I think that is going to probably bear the largest fruits for the labor in terms of helping yourself have the mindset or the framing of where you are. So from, and then what you want to go to, right? And the from is actually the hardest thing, because it's hard for us as all, I would love to say I'm a progressive HR professional, but it's hard to take stock of kind of maybe where you're at and recognize maybe you haven't evolved with the workforce and being able to really see where you are. And so I'm going to just use the from category. I'm just going to call it as like the traditional employer. And then the two is how can you be an employer that is meeting the needs of today's workforce, or becoming the evolving employer. So it's not around going from A to Z, it's around going from A to B or A to C. And just getting the mindset is probably the first thing you can do. And I can give an example of a from to, and every business is going to be different, right? And if you're an HR person listening to this call, you might think about your CEO who may be stuck with a perspective of the way it needs to be. And I get that. You don't have to go across those 5 vectors mentioned earlier equally, right? You might be only able to go to A1 to A1, 2, like 1B or whatever. And then some vectors you might be able to go to Z. So again, this isn't around perfection, it's around evolution. And so let me give you an example. A traditional employer expect employees to perform regardless of their state of mind. You show up to work, you do the thing, you're going to perform, and we pay you for that. An evolving employer may have a mindset of recognizing employees' being and mental state actually drives productivity. That's just a mindset that has no tooling, no program design. There's no spend to that, but it's a belief system. You may view turnover so a traditional employer may view turnover as an unavoidable cost of business, especially if you're in HR. You just know that there is a benchmark, you know your industry, you are or you're not, versus maybe an evolving employer's mindset might be actively investing in the workplace culture and in employee recognition as a normal cost of business, rather than seeing turnover as a regular cost of business. Right. So it's again a shift in mindset, and those may be too drastic. I don't know if you want me to give you more, or if you want to go to the next question.
I have a follow-up question on that one.
Yeah.
Then I have a follow-up question, because ultimately I think what you talked about is great. I think that in order to move to a different level or a different position from point A to point B, you need to be fully recognizing that you're at point A, right? Yeah. Like if you're not honest with yourself, then there's no moving to point B, yeah. Right? Like it won't happen. So, moving from point A to point B, there has to be, and in that that gap there, okay? Use that as one example of mental health and well-being, which is a huge issue, okay? The problem, but I get spoken to about or asked all the time is, this is how we do it today. This is what we've always done. If we go here, my concern is that there is a level of trust that we have to have in our employees. And what if they start to abuse it? What if we're not stable enough as an organization where someone is fully able to make, different choices about their well-being and mental health, but at the end of the day, the outcomes still have to be outcomes. So how do you manage through that, I guess, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I have a theoretical answer, and then I'm going to give you
sure.
Agata without the filter answer. So I think the theoretical answer is an interesting one, in that the way, you said business A, this is the way we've done it and we've always done it. That's actually perfect as an example of the mental models you may have. And those tend to be passive. This is the way we've done it, and that's why it is. That's a very passive approach, where evolving employer will be active. And so to your question is, well, what if people abuse it, right? So now that the real answer I would give is, it's a little bit of the mental model still, is that if you treat employees as they are going to be abusing, they will abuse it. If you treat employees as though they're capable, highly aligned adults that happen to work for your establishment, they will start showing up that way. But it goes both ways. Now, if there isn't a case, and there will be, where someone takes the intent of a program or an initiative and warps it, treat that as the anomaly, not the main thing. There's so many different circumstances. So I could go into the weeds in this, but I think when you keep anchoring to people are actually here because they want to, and they believe in what we're doing, or they want to do good work, and they want to have control over their lives and confidence and rewards and all those things, like recognition that I mentioned, and if you can fill that bucket more, they're going to fill your bucket more. it is a reciprocal relationship, in my
So
opinion.
that's a mindset that is sort of a longer term mindset, which is what we want, versus being afraid of doing something that is different and that may have like a few bad apples. So that's what I
Yeah.
was hoping you would say.
Yeah, it's misalignment, right? It's usually a misalignment of something, whether it's like values or purpose or chemistry. Like there's usually some level of misalignment when those things show up. And I could spend a whole podcast talking about that alone, so I'm not going to do it.
Well, maybe we'll do another 10 episodes. But my next question, if we can just focus on actual examples, maybe you can give
Yeah.
us one example of the transition, like those transitions that we talked about, moving from point A to point B, that the HR team could actually do now.
Okay, I will go through each of those 5 vectors and give you an example of each. One of these will sound like a sales pitch. I assure you it's not, but I just want to give you a really concrete example. So ZayZoon is an earned wage access platform. You can just contact your payroll provider and figure out if ZayZoon is a fit for you. If you need to talk to someone, reach out to me. I'll put you in touch. But what it is get, like, for control as an example, is offer the flexibility that people can have access to their pay every day, that they don't need to wait till the 15th or the every other Tuesday for the pay. And so that is a form of control that is financial. That doesn't cost you anything, actually. It's they're earning their money anyway. It's just accessing it without it being another payroll run and where you have to spend the $25 in them all the time. How do you find that? Another example could be shift and schedule flexibility. We have a lot of parents at ZayZoon as an example, and we have a lot of flexibility. Now, are there roles that don't have flexibility or have different schedules? Absolutely. But we also have flexibility in which schedule people get hired into, and we talk about it early on. So that's 2 examples just under control. Opportunity, I think there's a few things that I want to offer. And I also want to say that this also depends on where you are in your evolution and size, but it could be like opportunity may be an opportunity for learning and development, lunch with the CEO. It could be if you guys offer a savings account or RSPs or 401ks, whatever that is. It may also be things that you already have that people don't know you have. So opportunity, like I mentioned earlier, can be something very broad to different people, but there is no way that there is an organization that doesn't have an opportunity that they can, I'm going to just say, exploit to their workforce, that doesn't cost them additional money or time. The amount of times I've asked employees, whether it's at my current organization or previous, hey, do you know that we offer this thing? It's like 9 out of 10 times no. You think you've communicated it because you're in HR and you've done the thing, but it's about the right time and the right place for those 2 things to be important. And so finding ways of understanding when the right time and place for quote unquote your opportunity is, and then following up with the right communication there. That's an opportunity for opportunity. Recognition is the easiest one in my opinion. There's two things. You can simply start doing recognition in the most basic form and training your leaders or creating a quota, whatever it is. That's just time and commitment. But you can also do a formal recognition program, right? Acknowledge and celebrate key milestones, launch a reward and recognition program, and that does have money involved. So there's just ways of taking recognition and taking it from like quite literally the basics to a very robust program. And the workforce now values it. And it's not just Gen Z. It is all the generations really, really thrive with recognition. Connection. If you can't do anything that I mentioned in the earlier examples of like creating relationships and helping people have a space for that, communication is a form of connecting. Communicate more often. Think about the amount of things that people in the absence of information will come up with their own storylines. Communicate more often than you've ever communicated. You don't have to be fully transparent. You don't have to change your tone and your belief system. Just do it more often. And that will drive a level of connection, at least from the worker to the employer. You can also do other things, even following up if you do employment engagement surveys. Like the amount of companies that actually don't share their results back to employees is
Still?
mind-boggling. Yeah,
Like
still. Even today, like the amount of times they're like, we had great intent, we wanted to do this thing, and then it just fell apart. It just lost its, then it was too old, and then we didn't, and then nothing happens. And sure, the few important people may know it and have the details, but like actually go back to the employees and say, this is what we heard. We heard your voice. Like that creates connection. And then consider how to develop a peer-to-peer experience of connection. That may be if you're in tech, that could be the donut app. That might be something you do manually, doesn't matter. You can fund lunches and cross-functional. And then confidence is an interesting one. I always think like, what is something you can do or is probably in your tool suite of things you already have? So if you have an EAP, the likelihood is they already have budgeting tools, right? To help people with financial wellness. Financial stress is at the highest it's been for the workforce in decades, if not, I think, I don't remember the exact stat, but it's really high. It's really bad, both in Canada and the US. And just even like financial career education is typically offered in most benefits plans. Again, it's around serving that up and getting it to the people at the time of need. And now is the time of need. Like the financial stress of the workforce is high, which is also why gig work works for those individuals. So if you're wondering why I even brought up gig work, is they're using it to top up. Many employees, I think 50% of the workforce is involved in gig work. And so helping them maximize that is a way of building out confidence, right? It's not around taking it away, but helping them be able to know how to take all those inputs and make the best out of that. So those are my practical, like you can do those today. I'm speaking to kind of organizations that maybe don't have a budget that they could go and spend more money on. There's a ton of things you can do with money. I just want to give some like really like grassroots opportunities, because I think the workforce of today also love working for small, medium businesses, right? I think there's a lot of connection and some like purpose and real control that they feel. And so I don't want to be talking to simply the businesses that have really large wallets. So yeah.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. Every organization that I've worked for, most of what we did didn't cost anything, because we knew that it's the intrinsic factors that actually matter. I mean, you can throw money at people, but if they feel lousy about themselves, like those 5 key things that you just talked about, then you're just wasting money. So, okay, so we're at the end here. I just want to ask the same question that I asked everyone is, if our viewers can learn just one thing about what we've talked about today, what is that one thing?
Can I give you 2 things?
Yes, you can.
The reason I say 2 things. One is 95% confidence that you likely can leverage and reutilize what you already have today for the evolved workforce. So know that this is a recalibration and redistribution of what you already have today. So feel confident that you're not behind. So that's one thing I really want everyone to do. The second is don't underestimate or discount the financial stress people are experiencing. And there is such beautiful ways where you don't have to become the personal accountant or mentor or coach, or if you're in that position, there's many beautiful things that you can offer that are, if not free, close to free. I talked about earned wage access or on-demand pay, rewards and recognition, and like just financial education just really will be those beautiful fundamental building blocks that I think will move your business faster and further in terms of creating that connected workplace of tomorrow.
And I just wanted to just emphasize the financial well-being is probably the most important one, maybe next to the mental health during the past 5 years, and especially in Canada. And so I think, to your point earlier, we cannot underestimate how powerful that really is, because there is a level of shame that comes with finances where people are struggling. And so I just want to just point that out, that it's a huge thing, and so to really pay attention to that. So
it's actually leading causes of mental health issues, right? So I think
that I didn't mention that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So sometimes what comes first, right? And my argument is that it's both. So I don't know if there's any financial comes first, vice versa. But I mean, there was a really good website that's from Michael Landsberg. So Michael Landsberg was a former sportscaster for TSN, I think it was, and he was the host of Off the Record, which was a sports show, which was one of my favorite shows. So Michael left the sports world, he started, his own mental health organization because he also struggled from that. And so I'll find the link and I'll show it out, for everyone. But it's a huge, very valuable platform. So those are the types of things that obviously can be shared with staff as well. So on that note, I just want to thank you for being here. So for all of our viewers, so I'm Jeff, host of the Unmuted podcast, also founder of ScaleHR and SocialHRCamp. And so all of our episodes live on our website as well as YouTube. So if you'd like to watch videos on YouTube like I do, hit the like button or share your comment. I want to hear from you. So, obviously these conversations are very short, but and they're meant to sort of spur thought, inspiration, and learning. So Agata, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.